Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we're going to be talking about Dennis Smith Jr. and potential teams that could sign him. The first two right out of the gate are the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors. I know the Warriors are signing Kevin Knox out of, or they've already signed him to a 10-day. And from my understanding, as I was told at All-Star Weekend by other media members, the expectation is Kevin Knox will then get converted to a full deal, and they would still have a roster spot. Both teams need to get to 14 roster, minimum. It's not the roster minimum, but what they're required by the league right now. And I think it'd be interesting if either team brought in Dennis Smith Jr. The other options we'll talk about are the Denver Nuggets, the Atlanta Hawks, the New York Knicks, and, of course, the Milwaukee Bucks, as all those teams would benefit from bringing in a guard and perimeter defender like Dennis Smith Jr. Before we start today's video, I want to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you guys think of Dennis Smith Jr. joining a playoff team or a team that has a need for a player like him? Because I think the best thing for him would be going ahead and getting himself in position to either do something similar to Lonnie Walker, where he signs a 2-year deal with the second year being a team or player option. So if he does ball out, he either becomes a trade asset or they could decline it and then renegotiate a deal on principle before he hits free agency, so he just comes back. So let's just get right into the reporting. And this came out actually, I believe Eurobasket was the original one who broke the news, and then it was confirmed later in the day by Chris Haynes. But Dennis Smith Jr. last year in 56 games averaged just under 7 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists in almost 19 minutes a night. And he's become one of the better perimeter defenders in the league, a solid scorer when finishing at the rim, can be a secondary playmaker or even a table setter for the second unit. The jump shot's still shaky, but in 4 games with Real Madrid, he averaged just under 3 points and 1 rebound in 9 minutes. Smith was signed to the Spurs in the G League before he was claimed by the Wisconsin Herd, because he was originally going to participate in the G League showcase. I was there. I saw Dennis Smith Jr. I walked by him, dapped him up. Well, not dapped him up. I gave him a fist bump because I don't know Dennis Smith Jr., but we don't know each other personally, but he was there, so I just fist bumped him, said good luck. But I do that to everybody that athlete wise, even if we don't talk, I just feel like it's being courteous. Either way, what would each of these teams want in a guy like Dennis Smith Jr.? I think he's a guy that, obviously, if we talk about the two teams that have a void of roster space, I think the Golden State Warriors are a team that both the Warriors and Cavaliers sit at 13. They must add 14 players by Thursday. To me, the Warriors are in a bit trickier situation due to them having less than $1.4 million in salary under the first apron, and that's a tight fill, as it'll require them to do some flexibility. With Kevin Knox being the guy that they're signing to a 10-day, they could more than likely be able to sign him to a minimum contract that is below that, because I know if you're over 3 years of service, the veteran minimum contract salary cap hit is prorated to 3 years of service. So it's 3.3 million, but 3 years of service, I think, is 2 million or 1.8. So it's really only 1.8 or $2 million of a cap hit. Now, the Cavs are expected to do a similar thing, maybe sign a guy to a 10-day, and I think Dennis Smith Jr. is someone who should be considered. So if we just go ahead and talk about each team, I think the biggest thing when we look at this, one of my more interesting thoughts is what teams would benefit. The Denver Nuggets and the Atlanta Hawks are the top two assist teams. They don't need the passing obviously would be a benefit, but it's really when Jokic sits or Jamal Murray sits or Trae Young sits, they don't have a backup point guard. I mean, since Reggie Jackson and Monte Morris left Denver and Facundo Campazzo, you could even say, they really haven't had a guy. So Dennis Smith Jr. could be a really good bet for both sides, where if it works out, he'll land himself a deal in free agency, either to return or go somewhere else, and he'll get playoff experience. Hawks would definitely guarantee him playing time because he could play with Trae or relieve Trae. The Cavs are another team that are one of the top passing teams in the league. They're actually tied for third with the Grizz. Number 1 and number 2 are the Hawks. And the Cavs right now, I think if you look at their situation in terms of injury report, I know Ty Jerome is day-to-day. Isaac Okoro is currently out with the shoulder, and so is Dean Wade with the knee. So to me, I think that's where you look at a guy like Dennis Smith Jr., he could definitely come in and help fill a void for them. I think Kenny Atkinson and Quinn Snyder, 2 coaches that really do a good job of play design and strategizing and adjusting to his personnel with or without injury. And with Kobe Buffkin out for season, Jalen Johnson and Vit Krejci, right? Krejci and Larry Nance all being out, I think Dennis Smith Jr. would definitely get playing time and be a guy who could help raise their defense. I know everyone's going to want me to say the Lakers, but I just don't really see the Lakers doing that. I mentioned earlier the Knicks and the Bucks. The Knicks did acquire DeLon Wright, who I like DeLon Wright, but he has been, for the last year, borderline unplayable. And the Bucks had DeLon Wright, and he was supposed to be that perimeter defender guard that Dennis Smith Jr. would be for them. But as a result, they traded him for Jericho Sims because they rather had Jericho Sims than DeLon Wright. Because Sims gives them another depth guy, and DeLon Wright was just eating Roth's spot. With OG, Pacome, Tyler Kolek, and Mitchell Robinson all right now being on the injury report, Dennis Smith Jr. would, because the problem with Campaign is too offensive. I love Deuce McBride, but they can't have Deuce McBride do everything, and having Dennis Smith Jr. would allow Deuce McBride to play the 2 guard sometimes. So I think that would definitely help out and really allow this team to improve the perimeter defense that currently the New York Knicks, for being a Tom Thibodeau coach team, are the 13th ranked opponents' points per game, and their defensive rating is actually the 10th worst in the NBA, while being the 2nd best offensive rating. And of course, we talked about them briefly, but we gotta give them their cookies. The Milwaukee Bucks are actually, out of all the teams that I listed, the worst at assists per game, and Dennis Smith Jr. could play alongside Damian Lillard or be the relief for Damian Lillard. And this is a team that's 12th in defensive rating, 12th in offensive rating, 14th in opponents' points per game. So they would actually very much benefit from having a guy like Dennis Smith Jr. And I know they brought in Kevin Porter Jr., but they could be the yin and yang off the bench. Kevin Porter Jr., I mean, both of them can't shoot right now, which is kind of like a problem. But it definitely would, I think, help alleviate said teams' lack of perimeter defense. And with Giannis Antetokounmpo being out for the foreseeable future with the calf, even though I saw Giannis walking around, hanging out, he looked fine. I think it's just precautionary. So to me, I think this is obviously, there's a lot of ways that Dennis Smith Jr. can go. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below. And would you sign Dennis Smith Jr. if you were one of these teams? Ciao.